Wonderhussy here on a blustery, windy day in the beautiful Mojave Desert, somewhere between Barstow and Las Vegas, aka one of my favorite parts of the desert because there's so much weird and abandoned stuff around here. Like this house. That's right, it's another abandoned house, and I know there's some of you out there going, oh dear, another abandoned house. Now we gotta sit here and listen to her go through old newspapers and make up some stupid story about who might have lived here at the side of this. Well, guess what? It's a dried up lake. That's right, a dried up lake in the middle of the desert, and I'm sorry it's so windy and the audio probably sucks, but I happen to be out here with my exploring buddy. This guy really gets around in his Jeep and finds all kinds of interesting places, and then he calls me and tells me, Wonderhussy, you gotta come out and see this place. And this is one of the places he told me I need to come out and see because he did some research into it after he poked his nose into this abandoned house, and he found out some pretty interesting information about this property. Now, it's a pretty big spread, nice desert parcel. Like I said, there's this big lake out front with an island in the middle. That's what those concrete blocks are. They built up a little island in the middle, and there's that bridge crossing over to the island. Really a significant water feature to have in the middle of the Mojave Desert, but that's because this is a part of the desert that has a lot of groundwater that apparently is pretty close to the surface. And so there's a bunch of lakes out here. Apparently just about anyone can have a lake in this part of the desert, including the people who lived in this house. Now, my friend says there's a lot of stuff left behind in this house. So it's almost like the people left overnight. You know, it's one of those situations where they just picked up and took off for some mysterious reason. I mean, why would you leave a beautiful house like this? I mean, they had a leather living room set. They had this amazing built-in stone fireplace. And apparently they had a bunch of really big dogs that weren't housebroken because there's an ungodly amount of dried up dog turds on the shag pile carpet. And oh dear, I'm wearing flip-flops. Anyway, according to my friend, the interesting thing about this house is his friend, who happens to work in the real estate field, looked up the property records and found that it was listed for sale about 10-15 years ago for $700,000. $700,000. That's a lot of money for a place in the middle of the desert. Who would pay that kind of money for a place out here? Well, if it had a giant lake out front, you know, what do they say out here in the West? Whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting. Water is like the new gold out here, or the new oil. If you have a lake and enough groundwater to fill a lake, well, I guess you can charge $700,000 for a house. Although it might not have just been the lake that justified that asking price. Could have also been the beautiful bathroom with this huge sunken tub. I'm guessing this was the kids' bedroom because there's little, well, it's kind of backlit, but there's little toys, bathtub toys at the side of this unspeakably filthy bathtub full of sand. I mean, even though the windows are still intact in this place, which is pretty incredible for an abandoned house, especially a house that's been abandoned as long as this one. The windows are still intact, but this sand and dust is getting in somewhere. Even though, yeah, all the windows are still intact. This house is actually in pretty decent shape. And oh dear, I just saw this hanging. I mean, look, this is still hanging on the wall. Happy birthday, Coraline. Love, Mama. So a little girl named Coraline. Maybe this was, oh yeah, look. This was Coraline's bedroom, and well, unfortunately, I don't know how old Coraline was. I thought based on those toys in the bathtub she was a little girl, but oh gosh, there's a whole bunch of papers. Boy, they weren't kidding. Or I should say my friend wasn't kidding when he said there was a lot of stuff left in here. Oh no, look here. Some kind of diagnosis. It says bipolar disorder. Most recent episode, manic, severe with psychotic features with a cannabis dependence. No, little Coraline. Oh dear, no, I don't think it was Coraline after all. There's this other page, and I had to cover certain information with these playing cards that were laying here, but it was somebody else, somebody named Tim. But it says that the Barstow Counseling Center released him to, this is really interesting, Imam Ali Seminaries or Mirza Baig or Ali Rashid. So I'm not sure what was going on here. Maybe that was somebody who was just squatting here. Oh my God, look at this. It's some kind of Muslim pamphlet. Why do the Shias prostrate on clay tablets? It's a pamphlet written by Allama Sheikh Abdullah Sain Al-Amini, translated from the Swahili translation of Sayyid Muhammad Mehdi Shustari. Wow, very interesting. Boy, the plot thickens. Then there's this. Well, actually, first there's this. A first book for understanding diabetes. Oh dear, I wonder if little Coraline was a diabetic. I don't know. There's this calendar over here though. Look at this. Somebody was living here in the month of June. Unfortunately, it's covered in mouse poo now. And it looks like, well, every day has a name written on it, and it's either Julius or Carolyn. And they kind of alternate. So maybe this was like the day they had to do chores or something. God, I'm really sorry it's so gross in here. This entire floor is covered in, well, mouse poop, but dog turds and soiled Kotex. I mean, I'm guessing there must have been a pack of Kotex in here unused and the rats got to it. Oh God, I don't know. It's really gross and I apologize. Anyway, my thought was maybe there was two kids living here, one named Julius and one named Coraline, and that was the calendar that the mom made up for them to do their chores. Let's just take a quick peek in the closet here and see if there's any more clues. Oh my God, there's all these little kids' clothes. Oh man, this is really sad. I mean, what do you suppose happened here? Well, my friend actually has a theory based on the research that his real estate friend did that indicated that this place was on the market for sale in 2011, I think he said, and for $695,000, you know, almost $700,000. But then mysteriously, the federal government bought it for $54,000. Now, I'm not very good at math, but an asking price of $695K ends up getting sold for $54K. That's like a what, $640,000 difference? Why would somebody sell out to the federal government so fast and at such a steep discount? Well, my friend has a theory about that too. Oh, look, here's a sharp. Could there have been addicts squatting in here? That might explain some of the mess. Or could this just have been for whoever was diabetic here? You know, maybe if little Coraline was diabetic, she had to do her insulin injections this way. But I don't know. Don't they have a different mechanism for delivering insulin out? You don't have to do this anymore? I'm not sure. You tell me what you think, but there's a whole nother wing on this side of the house. Let's see. More bedrooms. Oh, this one is astonishingly clean. Maybe this was the master bedroom. Well, that's actually pretty nice. Big picture windows looking out over the beautiful desert. Look at that. Nothing as far as the eye can see. Oh, wind. Look. One of the windows is broken out. So this window did get busted out, and that's probably how some of the dust is getting in here. Not surprising at all. In fact, it's way more surprising to go into an abandoned house that has all the windows intact. Anyway, then there's another bathroom over here on this side with another unspeakably foul tub. And look, oh gosh, it was a SpongeBob SquarePants Mylar balloon. Well, at least because most of the windows aren't busted out, that balloon hasn't blown out across the desert. But anyway, that's pretty much the whole house. There's one more bedroom over here that has several windows busted out, and you can see how much crap has blown into this room. I'm not even going to walk in here because, well, do I really need to say why? Oh, I see what's going on here. The whole ceiling rotted through in this room, and so that's all insulation that fell through from the attic and covered the floor in this unspeakably foul combination of, well, asbestos and Legos. Asbestos and Legos. Almost as good as peanut butter and jelly. Actually, it probably wasn't asbestos because this house, according to my friend's research, was built in 1996. And so I'm pretty sure asbestos was outlawed at that point. So not that old of a house. Built in 96. Listed for $700K in 2011. But then mysteriously purchased by the federal government at a steep discount shortly thereafter. Now, gosh, I don't know much about these kinds of things, but my friend said he thinks it was a witness protection situation, okay? The people who were living here had to go into the witness protection program for some reason, and so the federal government, they didn't have time to pack anything up, didn't have time to get any of their Legos, any of their calendar, whatever stuff that little Coraline left in her room, clothes, everything had to stay. They had to get out quick. And then I guess, I'm not sure how this works with the witness protection program, but my friend seems to think that the government picks you up, gives you new identities, and moves you clear across the country to Ohio or Florida or someplace under new names, and you would never know that you used to live way out here in the middle of the desert. But then the government is left with this property that they don't want, and so they just sell it as quick as they can for cheap. Well, I'm not sure that makes sense to me, because wouldn't the federal government want to try to make as much money as they could on the property? So it seems to me they would have tried to sell it for at least a couple $100,000, but maybe it was in such bad shape by that time that they figured it wasn't worthwhile. And so they did just, sell it to the first person who was interested, and they only got $54,000. Wow, look at this. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles coloring book. How about that? Oh, wow, look, an Amazon Prime box. I guess Amazon delivered way out here. Oh, look, here's another handbook about bipolar depression unscripted. I am challenged by my bipolar depression. Boy, I'll say. My own dad actually committed suicide because I think he had bipolar disorder his whole life, and it can be a pretty big bummer, to put it mildly. Anyway, yeah, everything's covered in dog turds and dust now, but if you use your imagination, you can picture that this would have been a really nice house back in the day when people were actually living here, when Julius and Coraline and their mom and dad sat here of an evening with a fire roaring in the fireplace. It does look like the fireplace was used. There's kind of soot above it. I suppose that could have been from squatters after the fact, but, really not a bad place, all things considered, especially with a lake right out front. I know it's in the eye of the beholder, and a lot of people don't like the desert, but I think this place would have been really nice. I wouldn't mind living in a house with a big fireplace like that, and its own private lake, and what's more, a detached garage big enough for several vehicles, if not a couple RVs. Look at this. Let's see if there's anything inside the garage. At least we can get out of the wind this way. Oh, wow. There really isn't much left in here. Just looks like wasn't finished being built, to be honest. There's a bunch of insulation on the floor, and then the rafters are still bare. So maybe it was kind of like a work in progress. Golly, they had a lot of, I was going to say diapers, but these are Huggies overnights. I think these are made for toddlers, for like in-between kids that are mostly potty trained but might wet the bed. So I guess the kids here, Coraline and or Julius, must have been that sort of in-between age when you can't quite be trusted to sleep all night without pissing yourself. But, you're old enough to want to play with these little My Little Pony toys. Golly, the creaking and squeaking of this garage door is intense, but that's a pretty nice garage door. That wasn't cheap to put in, and it's still in really good shape. I mean, why would you leave a place like this if it wasn't because you were being whisked away into the witness protection program? I mean, something made these people flee pretty suddenly. So I guess my friend's theory is as good as any other. Oh, what's going on here? Photo albums? Are these the people who lived here? Oh no. Oh no! They left all their photo albums behind. Oh God, I don't know. I feel like this is just too much to show in a video. This is somebody's lives, you know? But there are albums and albums of photos in here. Tons of color photos of this family who lived in this house. Oh my gosh. It looks like the dad was in the Army or the Air Force. Maybe there are some military bases in this area. So maybe he, golly, I don't know how he would have gotten into trouble being in the military, but he looks like a nice guy. Looks like a happy guy. He looks like he was African American, but his wife was white. So it was a mixed race couple. And their kids, oh my God, is this the kids? They don't look mixed race to me. Well, I don't know, maybe they are. They're adorable, little boy and a little girl. I guess that's Coraline and Julius. Oh no. Oh man, yeah, I don't want to show these photos on camera because it just feels very invasive. Okay, my friend doesn't want to be on camera. I'm just going to shoot his back, but he looked through all these photo albums and he figured out the whole dang story. This guy is wild. I thought I liked poking through abandoned places and making up stories. This guy puts me to shame. Anyway, he figured out that the guy had a first marriage and he had kids by a black woman, and then his second wife, I guess, was a white woman, and so then the kids from that marriage were mixed race. Golly, I don't know. Oh, he just handed me a photo. This just in. Oh yeah, she's pretty pale skinned. What's the date on this photo? Oh, 1994. But this house wasn't even built till 96. I guess they must have moved here. Maybe this was their dream house that they built. You know, they finally got the money saved up and they built their dream house. Oh, look at this. There's a Jeep. Oh, and a beautiful dog. Oh no. They got a new Jeep in May of 2000, it says on the back of this picture. Oh man, and what's really interesting is I think these people, well, they might have been related to Kevin Bacon. Now, why do I say that? Well, no, there's no photos of Kevin Bacon in here, but it says, I think this is part of a 6 Degrees to Kevin Bacon game. Have you ever heard about that 6 Degrees to Kevin Bacon? It's like any movie you can think of or any actor you can think of. You come up with any movie, even like the very first movie ever made, or you know, one of those really old-timey movies, like say Gone with the Wind. Well, you go, okay, who was in Gone with the Wind? Clark Gable. Well, Clark Gable was in The Misfits with Marilyn Monroe. Well, Marilyn Monroe was in this movie with that guy, blah, 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 and you can trace it all the way to Kevin Bacon. Well, apparently there's a board game all about the Kevin Bacon phenomenon. And so these people were either related to Kevin Bacon in some way, or maybe they just like playing that board game. Anyway, I'm really curious to check out this lake out here. I mean, this was some lake, really big. Like I said, there's a significant amount of groundwater out here, enough to fill an entire lake like this and build an island with a bridge out to it, which if I was a little kid, like little Coraline or little Julius, I'd be pretty stoked, even if my parents were dragging me to live way out in the middle of the desert and I was going to be 10 miles from any of my friends. Well, if I got to have my own lake, that might have made me feel a little bit better about things. Especially my own lake with my own island. Hey, let's walk out to the island on this bridge. Bridge is in really good shape. I don't think it's going to fall apart on us. But even if it does, it's only about a 3-foot drop into soft sand, so we're not going to be hurt. But it didn't give out either way, and now here we are in the middle of this island, which it looks like maybe it looks like they were going to build something on this little foundation in the middle. Look at that. They put these rebar footings for some kind of pillars, and they were probably going to build like a little gazebo, and then maybe this was going to be a fire pit. Looks like they had some campfires out here. Oh, sorry about my shadow and sorry about the wind. These are very challenging circumstances to film a video, but that's just kind of how it is out here in this part of the desert. You know, it's hotter than blazes half the time. It's blasting wind half the time. It's full of water part of the time and dry as a bone the rest of the time. Not an easy place to sustain life That's for sure. So I don't know if my friend's theory about the witness protection program actually holds any water, so to speak, or not. I mean, it could just be that life is friggin' tough out here. These people decided to move for whatever reason. They couldn't get the money they wanted. And so, gosh, I don't know. None of this makes any sense to me. What do you guys think? Did this military man get mixed up in some kind of bad business and had to rat out some drug dealer or mafia guy and ended up having to go into witness protection with his wife, son, and daughter, and now they're living some happy life in West Virginia or Montana under totally different names? Or did they just give up? You know, my friend does have a good point here, though. Why would they willingly leave all their family photo albums just sitting in this box out in the open? Does kind of seem like they had to leave in an awful hurry, so who knows? Just another one of many mysteries in one of many, many, many abandoned places in this fascinating part of the desert. Okay, well, the bad news is that's pretty much all there is to this abandoned house. But the good news is I'm out here visiting my friend for 2 days, and he's got more places to take me in the morning. So stay tuned to find out what other weird sights he's found for us to check out.